Tonight on America's Hope, we talk about combating substance abuse, fentanyl, and other drugs. It's killing us. What's being done about it? America's Hope starts now. From the NTD Global Headquarters in New York, I'm Kelly Wright. Good evening. Thank you for joining us this hour, and we hope that wherever you are safe and well, taking care of yourself and others because you matter. Look, the bottom line is you really do matter, but in this age of substance abuse, we're finding out that a lot of people are losing their lives to drugs like fentanyl or alcoholism. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to have a very upfront personal conversation. So for those of you who have family members who might be addicted to drugs or going through treatment, pay attention to this and listen to what we'll hear from people who are very much involved in proactively caring for you and about you. America's Hope starts right now. We're talking about addictions in America and how to get to wholeness and wellness and better health. And certainly America is plagued with a lot of issues when it comes to alcohol and drug addiction. Someone who's going to join us right now will be able to weigh in on this important issue. And perhaps through this conversation, you, the viewer, will see as you come into our conversation that there is healing, there is hope, and that no one has to lose the fight against addiction. Richard Taite has been referred to as the king of rehab, if you will, and he started many years ago Cliffside Malibu in the early 2000s, making it the premier rehab facility in the industry. Well, after selling Cliffside Malibu, Richard is back in the business now, some 5 years after that. The formula for addiction treatment keeps changing, he tells us, and updating. And you can't use the old formula when people are constantly evolving. And so Richard is here to help us realize how once he realized that, it helped him reach out to people. So his new facility, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Richard, Carrara Treatment Rehab Wellness and Spa is the epitome of what he says treatment centers should be and want to be. Richard, thank you for joining us this hour on America's Hope. As you know, the addictions in America, it's at an all-time high. And a lot of that has to do with perhaps what we went through with COVID and everyone having to be indoors. And now that COVID is over, we still find that there's a rise in addictions. We know that fentanyl is a killer. We know that the opioid crisis is going on, but there's also alcohol and other kinds of drug addictions. How have you been able to help people, particularly those who are, who would be most noted as the rich and famous, get through their addictions and find healing?
Well, the rich and famous are really the same as everyone else, with the exception of a couple things. The first one is they have a life of comfort and convenience. They've got big lives, right? And so they're used to that. Another difference is they have handlers usually, and they're next to impossible to deal with because they're yes people and they're not interested in the well-being of their client. They're interested in getting a percentage of what their client is making. And I'm referring to agents and business managers now. So aside from those two things, they're pretty much the same. And Carrara was built for them. It was built for ultra high net worth individuals. It was built for celebrity CEOs, that type of thing. And really, it was built for me. You know what I mean? It was built with me in mind. I have a level of spoiledness, for a lack of a better word, where I got sober because I needed to find something that was more important, more valuable than doing drugs and alcohol. And what I replaced that with was a life of comfort and convenience and self-care. And ultimately, as you level up, water seeks its own level. And I was lucky enough to find a good woman to have 2 beautiful children with. And now I've got a life that I can be proud of and a life worth living.
You know, I'm smiling because you talked about all of the right things that help, that can help anyone grow and become better than their circumstances and than their past. And you already alluded to the fact that you went through a past addiction. My understanding is that it happened during your teen years, and you spent decades struggling to stay sober. How have you used your past experience to create the purpose and empower others that you do today?
Well, it was simple. I mean, first of all, I lost 2 decades to drug addiction and alcoholism. And I lost 2 decades to alcoholism, and I got sober with therapy. I tried AA, and it gave me a basic foundation, and it's good. AA, I'm an advocate for AA, but AA is not treatment. It's a support group. And so I got sober, and they gauged it with something called the stages of change model. A guy by the name of Dr. James Prochaska, who trained my staff, he's like the 5th or 6th or whatever it is, most referenced psychologist in the world. And I'm talking about human history. You can't even become a therapist in this country without reading 2 books, 2 texts, and one of them is his. So think of it this way. Think of it like the stages of grief, right? And what it is the beginning of that stage is complete disabled, right? You're just in it over the grief, right? You can't get out of it. And then you have stages going through, and at the end, you've got the light at the end of the tunnel, and you walk through the light, and you're not stuck anymore. You're never going to get over it.
Yeah.
Okay. But you have to get through it in order to live. Right. So the stages of change are just like that. They don't treat you, but it tells you where you are in your arc. And then you can use the right interventions every step of the way to make certain that you recover. But it lets you know when you are good, when you have reached that light at the end of the tunnel, and when you've reached the action stage and then the maintenance stage, you know, and hopefully the transcendence stage, although I only know about 2 handfuls of people who have ever transcended it. And I'm not one of them, even though I never have a craving or anything like that, because, you know, I've got a big life and it's become habitual. And the work is, you know, I still see a therapist twice a week who I'm, you know, therapy is the ultimate luxury. It's not something you have to do. It's something you get to do.